Hello, Athena Sanks. What? So you do see me in your future. Interesting. Ooh, for a second there I thought you hated me or something. Oh Jesus, would you relax already? I'm just messing with you. Look, I just want to have a little chit-chat, alrighty? If you hadn't ran out of the courtroom crying like a little girl, maybe we wouldn't need to. Make it quick. Of course. Just don't go reaching for the knife just yet. But we literally can't present anything. Let's talk about the trial. To be honest, I don't think there's that much to be honest, though, I don't think there's much to talk about. Can't change the past. But I imagine it's more of a matter of rubbing salt in the wound with you. Jeez. Can't change the past. Good advice, sure, but you sure don't seem to be taking it. I mean, you're still talking to me like this. And what am I supposed to do? Welcome you with open arms? You lied, tricked, and cheated your way through the entire trial. You killed someone. But the court says I did not. See, that's the part you gotta love about our justice system. It's literally like history. Written by the victors, baby. You haven't won anything. I won my freedom. Well, no, you won me that. If it was so wrong of me to do. So you're here to mock me. Why is it always about you? So I get to be the victim of this time, I suppose. Victim? You betrayed me. You forced me to help a murderer get away. Get away? But I'm right here, Apollo. I mean, you say it like I'm on the run or something. But nobody's coming to arrest me for some reason. Weird. Don't be so melodramatic. It was just business. If anything, you should be grateful. After all, another one for the perfect record, right? It's not my fault you just can't see the benefits of our deal. That was no deal. Yeah, trickery, boo-hoo, I'm Apollo Justice and I broke my moral code. Want to say it a few more times. Totally didn't get it the first 30. Also, you got paid if nothing else, right? A salary like yours, that's gotta be a plus, right? Okay, that's enough. What exactly do you want? What do you want from me? I just wanted to make sure there were no unanswered questions between us. The hell is that supposed to mean? Huh? Don't you want to know why I did it? Don't you know how I did it, even though the evidence said I hadn't? So this really is about rubbing salt in the wound. I don't care how you did it, and I don't care why you did it. Facts don't change. You killed a man. But what if it was something really justified? What if I have a deep wound in my heart that led me to do the terrible thing I've done? Yeah, sure, and I'm the King of England. Oh, come on. You have to give me some credit here. What, you think I killed someone just because I suddenly wanted to? For no reason? What am I to you, some kind of psycho? Maybe. Oh, come on. Look, you may not like me, but that doesn't make me a monster. You've killed someone, and you're walking around like nothing changed. That's enough to make you one. Well, you're not really doing anything about it either. If you truly believe I'm a parasite hurting society, then please, by all means, stop me. Go to the newspapers, go to the courts, the police, or whoever comes to that little head of yours. Even have me arrested too. Sent to death if you can. But I have some bad news for you. Nothing changes. People don't care. I don't think anyone really does but you. The judge, the witnesses, the prosecutor, none of them will lose sleep over this. Because life goes on. Their life. To them, I'm just a faceless nobody now. Or people tend to make the common mistake of getting too attached to something, too. In which case, people do still go on. Just in circles. Case in point. I'm not attached to you. You're attached to the case. I never want to see you again in my life. See what I meant when I said it's always about you, my dear Apollo? Because I think I'm the one that got attached. I mean, the look on your face when he said the verdict. It's burned into my memory. Can't stop thinking about it, even after all this time. It's like it was meant to be. This one is just called Apollo. I mean, we were so close to never meeting at all. Can you imagine it? I would have defended myself and tricked the court all on my own. But then you came, like a knight in shining armor. And then, you chose to do all the tricking for me. Oh, Apollo, you're one of the best friends I ever had. You know, you're obviously not in a good mood today. Really trying to understand why. I don't hate you, so why do you hate me? Ah, I get it. This isn't about me at all. You're just mad because you lost yours and don't get to be one of the cool kids anymore. Apollo, where you going? But what about your coffee? Oh well, guess I can't let it go to waste. Really bizarre vibes there. Oh then, Miss Adair. You were one of the guests to Mr. Art's party, correct? It was an arty party. Correct. Obviously didn't turn out to be much of a party, though. Would you then please testify about what happened at the night of the murder? From your point of view, naturally. I'm afraid I can't change much from Mr. Gumshoe's testimony, but happy to be of service. Well, she's much more confident than when we first met her. Bang, bang. Let's just take a look here. Athena, age 20. An up-and-coming defense attorney that received a lot of attention with my last case. She was found not guilty on the charge of murder. She received a lot of business as the result of that. Found not guilty, but clearly was guilty. Also has a really weird obsession with Apollo. Experienced police detective. Notice we don't have our client. We don't have our client in the court record. Which I suppose is meant to be a deal about how we're not actually doing this for our client, we're doing this for closure with Athena? Question mark? Paul is doing this for his own selfish reasons. As Mr. Edgeworth said, I was one of the guests invited to Mr. Art's gathering. Unfortunately, after arriving, the host never showed himself to me or the other guests. We all ended up wandering off in our own directions. Until I heard the gunshot. It sounded like it came from upstairs, so that's where I went. I saw the butler and the other lady standing in front of the study. I figured that was the source. We broke down the door and found the defendant inside, and the victim on the floor. I established that Mr. Arts was certainly dead and left the room. And yes, I'm sure he was still dead when his body disappeared, however it did. This sounds like a repeat of a testimony I just heard. What did you expect? The good detective told you what happened. Miss Adair only confirmed it, did she not? Apologies for making it uninteresting. But we aren't here for that, Justice. Facts are there, and they'll just keep repeating with every witness and piece of evidence. You either disprove them, or you do not. Either way, a verdict will be reached. Well, Yes, this is where you put your money where your mouth is. When's the cross-examination, Mr. Justice? At once. Alrighty. On the subject of the party and gathering, whatever. How did you know Arts? Or a sudden invitation? How did you know him? How well did you know Mr. Arts? I didn't really know him. I knew about him, if you want to be precise. The scandal, his trial. The stuff one usually knows if they know the name Ian Arts. But you must have known a little bit more than that. It's been years since that incident. Yet suddenly he decides to hold a party for some reason, with you as a guest. Honestly doubt it's a coincidence. It wasn't. I was one of the few people that happened to meet Arts before everything went to hell. I met him while I was starting out at the academy. I suppose it was unavoidable, with the state increasing the number of years to graduate. Considering that Mr. Arts held an outstanding record at that time as well. Yeah. So in that sense, we had met. He was quite an amazing man. I never known someone with that much knowledge on forensics. Forensics expert? I honestly thought he chose the wrong line of work in the department. We ended up sharing a conversation. I suppose he must have remembered me. Strange man. Finding a person he'd talked to once years before. That he was. Said you know about him. How much would that be? I knew about the lengths he went in order to erase his existence. It wasn't just pictures, you know. It was actually pretty thorough. Fingerprints, DNA, blood samples. Basically all of it is just gone from the police database. Or any database in general. He used what little connections he had left to make sure nothing was left. But why on earth go to such lengths? Guilty men have plenty to hide, Your Honor. Erasing Arts. Okay. Not in the case of my defendant, according to you. Not all guilty men. Ahem. Is there anything else in particular that interested you, Mr. Justice? Okay. Actually, yes. The defense would like the court to take note of Miss Adair's first and only meeting with Mr. Arts. Fair enough. Miss Adair, please update your testimony with this new information. Meeting must have left quite an impression on him. It must have, obviously. But I'm afraid it didn't really leave one on me. Don't get me wrong, it was an interesting conversation. It's not something I'd remember today. If this hadn't happened, that is. What exactly did you talk about? You really seemed interested in talking about forensics. I'm afraid I couldn't really care less, but... Considering it was coming from the great Ian Arts, I found it interesting regardless. The great Ian Arts. I heard they called him something else back in the day. I see. Please continue, Miss Adair. Understand. Unfortunately. So you wanted to see him? I think that goes without saying, Justice. After all, she was invited, and she decided to go there. Can't imagine why she wouldn't want to see the man of the hour. It's all relative. Perhaps she changed her mind about wanting to see him. Then I might as well have just jumped into the abyss. Because there sure as hell wasn't going back. Oh jeez. And that meant Ian Arts, at this point considered a dead man by some, made contact with me. As an investigator, it was basically my duty to take that challenge. challenge, huh? Of course. I had to investigate Arts and see where he'd been hiding. And why. You know, some thought he didn't do it. Rather not get into conspiracy theories, Miss Adair. Continue with your testimony, please. Damn, if only I had some authority to actually have her talk about that. The judge is wondering. Interesting way to put it. Yep. So we can ask about the other guests or you? That was the point where you lost contact with the other guests? Okay, that's what that means. A bit dramatic, but... yeah, I really couldn't keep track of any of them after that point. This diagram really doesn't do it justice. The place looks huge on the inside. Not huge enough that two people in the same room wouldn't notice each other, but... and it was at that point that my client, according to you, went to the study. And sat in wait to commit the murder. Problem, Justice? Eh? Oh no, felt like I need to say that. It isn't actually that funny when I think about it, but... I get the feeling this particular point will be annoying for some reason. Unless Mr. Justice has anything more to add, you may continue with your testimony, Miss Adair. What about you? Where exactly did you go? I mostly hung around downstairs. Everything else was quiet. I had come to the mansion with the intention of seeing Arts, but I wasn't rude. If he hadn't showed himself up to that point, I imagined he was waiting for something. One thing I'd like to note here. You didn't really pay much attention to the main hallway, did you? There was a longer period of time where you were in the kitchen, correct? That's correct. Uh-oh, he's getting oddly specific. Write that down in your important pad. Quick! I don't have an important pad. Use your photographic memory, damn it. So we could forget this and be made to look like idiots when he brings it up again to counter. What? Forget it. Wait, actually, write that down too. Get an important pad. Mr. Adair, please continue with your testimony. Please. So you yourself didn't know that the gunshot came from the study. I imagine it would have been strange if she had. The walls weren't the thickest, but they weren't exactly made of glass either. Unless... the walls were not made of glass, right? Ah, but what about plastic? I missed you, Edgy. Do not call me Edgy. Edgy poo it is then? Oh, come on. Do not test my patience with you either. That reminds me. You should remember to call that woman to his birthday party. Oh no. What was that, right? Nothing. We could get back on topic. Apollo? The other lady, huh? So they were both at the door when you arrived. Yeah. I'm guessing they managed to get to the room before me. I see. Was it at that moment that you realized something was wrong? Assuming the gunshot didn't do it for you. Evidently. Just to clarify, you first used the key to unlock the door and then saw a chain lock, correct? The butler did, yes. You first thought about getting bolt cutters to get rid of the chain, but there was a gap in the door through which we were able to see the body. Obviously, we couldn't waste time, but you couldn't see the defendant. We spotted him more or less right away after we broke down the door. It was hard enough to see the body through the gap, you know. The fact that the room was covered in darkness didn't really help. I see. What about Mr. Marston? He looked pretty out of it. Imagine he must have been in shock over what he had done. That's just speculation on my part, really. Important things don't change, however. He held the gun in his hand, and after we questioned him, he admitted to the murder. And there you have it. Please don't jump the gun, Mr. Edgeworth. My cross-examination is still underway. Well, to be fair, you haven't exactly discovered anything new so far. I'm still not done, Your Honor. But you will be if nothing changes. What does this mean? What did your examination turn up? I'm not exactly certified to do an autopsy, not to mention it was crazy dark. The victim was lying face up in the room, a little bit to the right from the door when entering. Looking at him from that point, he had a clear gunshot wound around the lower left stomach area. I checked his pulse and checked for any signs of tricks that would suggest he wasn't dead. And... nada. He was dead. Not sure about it, but I think that he wouldn't have lived long after the gunshot. Around 10 seconds, max. The victim, while an experienced investigator, was quite in his later years. Mind that with a lack of activity caused by his new lifestyle. I get the picture, Mr. Edgeworth. In any case, the information provided by Miss Adair here can be confirmed by other witnesses. That is, he indeed appeared to be shot in the lower stomach area and showed no signs that he was alive or breathing. Before you suggest that Mr. Adair was somehow in on the scheme. Duly noted, Mr. Edgeworth. After examining the body, you say you left the room. Well, I first closed the balcony, since it was open at the time. For the sake of preserving the body. The room was locked with a master key, naturally. I see. About the disappearance. Before? After you left the room and before the police came, what did you do? Did you keep an eye on each other? We did. Naturally, there was a possibility that the defendant wasn't working alone, so we decided to hold up in the lounge until the police arrived. Did you notice or hear anything strange? Nothing really, especially considering the awkward silence. How long did you wait for the police? About an hour. It takes a while to get up to the mountains. And none of you had to go to the bathroom or anything. People work surprisingly well under pressure, Justice. Their bladders don't, from what I generally hear. Why do you think I spend an hour in the bathroom before I go anywhere? Social anxiety. I did not need to know that piece of information, Mr. Wright. But you know it now. And knowing is half the battle. Thanks, boss. Your Honor, can we just add Miss Adair's statement to her testimony? The one about Mr. Wright's bathroom habits? The one about the lack of noise and general activity. Oh, I see. Miss Adair, you heard the spikes. Are you sure? Pretty sure I'm still not deaf. Are you sure about that too? Oh, I'm pretty sure my brain works well enough to confirm that much. Are you sure? Apollo, come on. Hold it retracted, Your Honor. Very good, Mr. Justice. Well, I'm not quite sure how much different our situation is here. Big problems are still there. Can't find a way to disprove the facts. And perhaps focus on the events told from her perspective. Even then, I'm not sure how much things would change. What about after? Can you describe what happened when you discovered that the body was missing? Not much really happened aside from general shock. What the police told me afterwards, all they found was a puddle of the victim's blood. I see. Before you ask, Apollo, no, I have no idea how it might have happened. I can imagine. I'm sorry, would you mind adding that last remark to your testimony? What about the puddle of blood, I mean? Easy enough. A puddle of blood. Did you mishear me? You really need to wash those ears of yours. My ears, I believe, are perfectly fine. I'm not so sure about that. We're not here to discuss the cleanliness of Mr. Justice's ears. We all know they're dirty. Well, gee whiz, thanks, Mr. Wright. I love you too. There's one point we didn't explore here. Party gathering, whatever. Sudden invitation. Mr. Arts was someone who disappeared years ago. Must have been strange receiving an invitation out of nowhere, I bet. Speaking of which, Mary, how exactly did that invitation look? Using my first name, huh? Well, I guess it's only fair. I believe I can provide an answer that I believe I can provide an answer. That question for the court. What? This was the invitation in question, signed by Mr. Arts himself. The defendant, Miss Adair, and the other guests each got one in 2 days before the murder. The invitations are written in the exact same form as this one. Interesting. Expected. To a point, at least. Can I continue now? And I redid that. Because I didn't realize it was new. But we do get this in the court record. Good day, Miss Adair. It might have been some time since we last spoke. For obvious reasons, I'm sure. I know that you never expected to hear from me again. That's fair. But after all, I've done so much evil, so much wrong in the past. Time went by and people started to forget. Some things cannot be forgotten, can they? Not by some, at least. That is why I am sending this invitation to you. I'd like to think I'd know quite a bit about you at this point in time, and you know me, perhaps, even better. That is why I'm inviting you to my mansion, an invitation that, if I've done everything right, nobody should know about. The instructions on getting there are provided in this letter, naturally. Why am I doing this now? Because I believe that my life of hiding is over. Because I believe that it is time to face my mistakes. For all the wrong I've done, I hope you will find it in your heart to forgive me. If not, then I suppose you'll kill me. Ian Arts. Arts' body, what we know about him. So it feels like there's more going on here than meets the eye. We just read that invitation. Let's present it here. Is that really the only time you've met? Isn't that interesting? I think that one meeting could affect someone so much. Imagine there'd need to be more to it than just that. And according to this, there was. Ah, the invitation. See, I knew there was something fishy about that. I mean, we didn't talk about it nearly as much as we did about other stuff. There are 2 paragraphs in particular I'd like to draw the court's attention to. I think I know quite a bit about you at this point in time, and you know me perhaps even better. The second one. I hope you'll find it in your heart to forgive me. Now, that doesn't sound like something resulting from just one meeting, does it? Well, I don't know. Maybe you said the Mouseman and Flycatcher movie was bad. Once like I said, I'd only forgive him if he invited me to a fancy-ass mansion. I have to doubt that, Your Honor. As you should. I mean, come on, the greatness of Mouseman and Flycatcher is unquestionable. That was the only time you'd met, was it, Mary? Fair enough. Guess it's his word against mine. And dead men always win, don't they? In this case, I'd say yes. True. I suppose I wasn't clear enough. Should have elaborated then. I didn't lie, to be clear. The only interaction really was years ago. But you're right. We'd actually met on 2 separate occasions. One was after the class which he held. The other one was between a thick class and a detention center. I don't really think you should be all that surprised. I should have mentioned that years ago meant around the time of his arrest. Lots of people wanted to talk to him, and so did I. I wanted to know why he did it. Take it his mind somehow took that to mean I despise you, even though I had nothing to do with the case. But why would you go talk to him then? I was an officer in training. I wanted to know what led such a great man to such new lows. I ended up telling him I was related to the victim in an effort to get him to talk. Something you evidently should not have done. It was a risk I was willing to take. I ended up finding out a few things about him. The other way around was true, too. I suppose my acting was better than I thought. I see. That's quite bizarre. Stranger paths have led to death, Your Honor. Interesting. Interesting. Mr. Dare, please clarify this point in your testimony. You told him you were related to the victim of the case. I heard he wasn't talking to anybody, so I used my instinct to try to get him to budge. Very daring, considering she would have still been a teenager at that age, I think. But to be honest, Apollo, I really don't think my reasons for being there were really that important. After all, the important things don't change. I still saw what I saw. What you say you saw. Are you doubting me? Did I say that? Are you saying I should doubt you, Mary? Oh, come on, that's such a bad tactic. Look, everything I'm saying I saw really happen. Unless we prove otherwise. Naturally. So, can we prove otherwise? Good question. We have this bit about erasing arts. How do we know it's his blood? Okay, cool. His blood, you say? Now, how do you know that? After all, God, I thought Mr. Arts had no blood samples on his record left. Therefore, how did you know that the blood in question belonged to the victim? How do you even know with certainty that the body in the room belonged to Ian Arts? Isn't that interesting? Indeed. Not sure where you're going with this, but I like it. Well, Mr. Edgeworth? Well, what? I'm still wondering what your point is. Let's assume the body didn't belong to Ian Arts. What would it change? What do you mean, what would it change? Everything or goddamn nothing? Not a goddamn thing. Give me a break. You do this to yourself, you know. But as always, the prosecution would like to show the court that even your original claim just doesn't work. See, we happen to know for a fact that the blood in the room belonged to the victim. Well, the blood wasn't ruined, that is. Ruined? Yes, ruined. Sadly, the area of the victim's pool of blood was compromised during the investigation. To a clumsy individual. However, we did find traces of Mr. Art's blood in the other, uncontaminated parts of the room. Blood which appeared to have gotten there on the night of the murder, of course. It was barely dried when the police arrived. Blood probably got there due to a possible fight between the victim and the defendant. Yes, that's nice and all. But my original question is still there. How do you know it was his blood? Simple. Mr. Arts wasn't as thorough as he believed he was in his cleanup. The fact of the matter is, Ian Arts donated a blood sample to a blood bank in 1998. One which, even if he'd known about it, none of his contacts could access. Turns out that that particular blood bank has tight security. Tighter than the police department's? blood sample was, naturally, then used to confirm that the blood belonged to Ian Arts. Does that answer your question, Mr. Justice? So once again, local lawyer accomplishes nothing. Unfortunately, yes. Well, this is getting boring. Ay vey. Mr. Justice, you seem to be going round in circles, I'm afraid. Evidently, Your Honor. Well, do you intend to do something about it? I mean, technically speaking, I can handle it. I can hand this case over to the jurors right now, if you know. What? Well, so far you haven't exactly been disproving Mr. Marston's guilt. Not that you haven't been trying. Firstly, no matter how I look at it, I always come back to the same basic points. The defendant was in the room. He had the gun in his hand. He confessed. As long as those 3 points stand, victim's body or not, your client is guilty. Even if you take the jury system into consideration, you haven't been doing a very good job of convincing them otherwise. What would happen after the murder? The crime itself is simple. The defendant entered the room, waited, and shot down the victim. He has a point. You can stand here, point out small inconsistencies. Big things are the ones that matter the most here. You do see it now, I hope. Either you show to this court another possible explanation supported by evidence, or you try to disprove the prosecution's claims. We're only at this stage and you're already putting him on the spot. Not counting the 5 or so times you already have. Facts are simple, right? I do not believe that time should be wasted explaining simplicities. You're pleased not guilty, Justice, which means you either support it with arguments of your own, or give up. The latter seems appropriate for you. Mary. On second thought, don't call me Mary. Gives off a feeling of sentimentality that we just don't have toward each other. Okay, what happened between us? My testimony stands. Now the question becomes, can you disprove it? Well, I'm not just gonna say no. You're on. Your Honor, the defense has a very big issue with Miss Adair's testimony. Oh God. Order. It's simple when you think about it, Your Honor. Simple, you say? Well, I'm putting a wager on it, Justice. Wager? If it's truly simple, then it means it's obvious. If it's obvious, then it's something that I should have spotted as well. In other words, it was an oversight on the prosecution's side. And if so, the prosecution will need to pay the consequences. However, if it's not, then I pay the price. Fair enough. Can't help but think that you might be bluffing here. Chances are he is, but I'm willing to hear him out. It really is simple. I just need to think outside the box, right? Very well, let's hear it, Mr. Justice. What is the issue with Miss Adair's testimony? Not this. Here it is. Problem in Miss Adair's testimony. Right? Not really, no. Crap. That's the issue, you say? But a particular piece of information seemed to support her testimony. In fact, I'm pretty sure it just repeated a part of my testimony. Simple, he said. Follow. Are you sure there's an issue here? Yeah, we're gonna back out of that. We can't disprove it. The defense has found no contradictions in the witness's account. The whole one bag of blood seems real convenient in the vein of faking your death and planting blood. I see. Well, Mr. Justice, that I have only 3 words for you. Game over, man. Game over. Wasn't that technically 5 words? Strange hobo man, please. Anyway, I see no reason for this trial to go on anymore. I see this judge is a millennial. Neither do I. This case is straightforward, and the facts all match. Therefore, since the defense has yet to present any evidence of Mr. Marston's innocence, we'll now hand this case over to the jurists.
Objection!
Yeah, like I'd keep silent. I'm shocked, Your Honor. I seem to be under the impression that this trial can end here, without violating the rights of my client. Rights? What are those? Every person deserves a fair trial. Your Honor, tell me, what do you consider a fair trial? Oh, one in which a fair verdict is reached? Ah, but that's where the issue lies. A fair verdict is reached by having the truth established. How can the truth be reached when we haven't even heard all the facts?
Objection!
What more facts do you need? I believe His Honor put it best when he said it. The defendant was in the room. He had the gun in his hand. He confessed. You can claim that you're missing facts, but if you're truly prepared to defend your client, then you use your evidence. You use your own knowledge of the case. Come into court prepared to do your job. And that's exactly what I'm doing. See, it's interesting you should bring up those 3 facts. Because one of them hasn't been properly presented to the court. As in among the events Mr. Dare just described, one event hasn't been explained. In the room, gun in his hand, confessed. The defendant was in the room? It's simple. We explained every aspect of this case from the point of view of the police and witnesses. You never explained the defendant's movements. Namely, you never explained this vital part of his scheme. How we got in the room? Tell me, Mr. Edgeworth. How exactly did my client get into the room again? And that's important because... several reasons, actually. The method could provide him a route to suggest someone else got into the room, somehow. I say method, but there aren't really that many to choose from here. And that's why this case can't end so soon. The prosecution's been manipulating the circumstances of the case to their advantage. They intentionally avoided showing the defendant's point of view. Read the subject of another culprit coming up. Easy to say his story matches with the witnesses. But the fact is, there's no way it's the same story. In other words, you want the defendant to testify himself.
Objection!
Another culprit, you say? Very well then, Justice. Challenge accepted. We should know how the defendant got into the room to prove there's a trick. Very well. Don't need the defendant's testimony to establish no other possibilities. Unfortunately. Even if it's still a waste of time, the way the defendant came into the room is actually beyond obvious. The possibility of another person X was already discussed. Make sure no doubt is left in your mind, Justice. Mr. Dare, you may leave the stand. Well, good luck, Mr. Justice. I won't need luck. After all, he is innocent. You can't fight against the water current. Sooner or later, you will drown. So what the hell happened between the time we first met her and now that's turned her against us so much? Prosecution would now like to call the victim's butler to the stand. It should provide you with the closure you need. Well, you certainly seemed hyped about it. Just thrilled, Your Honor. Prosecution calls Edmund Smith to the stand. Oh. My name is Edmund Smith. I'm a professional butler. When is this not how it goes? Oh no. Mr. Edgeworth. It's the butler's job to make his master's life easier. Hence I decided to save you a whole sentence. Mr. Smith, I am not your employer. Ah, how you wish to deny it. But Mr. Edgeworth, we both know there's something between us. Don't lie to yourself. Give me a paycheck. No! Oh, come on, mate. I'm not made of stone. Everything we've been through, you'll just leave me out like this? Sir, I'll be forced to report you to the World Butler Association. Alright. Unless, of course, make some kind of a deal. You want a deal? It's what you want, Mr. Edgeworth. Very well, I'll make you a deal, Mr. Smith. You stop camping in front of my house with the butler for hire sign. I don't throw you into jail for obstruction of justice. Obstruction of justice? That little misunderstanding. I don't see much room for misunderstanding anything here. You tried to clean the crime scene while the investigators were still there. You destroyed the victim's pool of blood for analysis. Well, of course I did. My master, as it turned out, was an immortal vampire. It was still his mansion, damn it. I had to do my duties. Would you like to spend time in a study covered with blood? Immortal vampire. One that could walk through walls, I tell you. I'm sorry, but I did not wish to defy someone of that caliber. Or someone that wealthy. Immortal vampires are rich? Well, of course they're loaded, you crazy bloke. Nice fake British accent, by the way. How do you live 1,000 years without making a single penny and still have a mansion? You don't? You poor, naive fool. We're not here to discuss the victim's species, apparently. Mr. Smith, 1. Consider it a miracle that we managed to recover other blood samples. 2. I don't really see why you're trying to get me to be your master when you believe Mr. Arts is alive. I've been meaning to break it up for a while. That's what they all say. You're all the same. Butlers. And 3. Consider it an even bigger 1. I'm still tolerating your bills. I understand you perfectly. Can't pay the bills? Don't worry, I got you covered. Introducing the new Only Yours discount, just $25.95 per hour. Just? Yes, I'm afraid you won't be getting a single cent. Surely you jest. And surely you enjoy the Daddy's Home package. I'm starting to see why Edgeworth didn't really want to take this case. Enough! Mr. Smith, you have been called here to testify about what you saw on the night of the crime. Would it be specific what happened before the crime? Actually, that's not true. Witness's point of view should provide you with the information you're missing. No possibility of another culprit. And the defendant's entry point into the room should become clear. A testimony, eh? So, Mr. Lawyer, you're my new client. Alright, you look good enough. I think my new payment package will be just perfect for you. I call it Marston's Guilt. Okay, I kinda like this. I kinda like this guy. I also think he's secretly Ian Arts. I'm calling that now. My master approached me after all the guests had split up to look for, well, him. He was his usual self, hidden under that mask of his, that is. He wished me to unlock the study door for him upstairs, since he could not. We got there, and yes, the room was indeed locked at the time, so I used my master key. Came to the room, but as I was heading downstairs, I heard the gunshot. Ah. Afraid this didn't really answer much of anything. Perhaps not at the moment. But I'm sure your cross-examination will bring you all the answers you need. He's choosing to answer your questions by answering nothing. Damn. That's when he strikes. Careful. I have a feeling he wants you to dig your own grave here. Trouble afoot. Where exactly was your master at the time, anyway? Certainly rude to call your guests and have them wait. I'm afraid I don't know. I never asked. Everyone was looking for the man, and you never bothered to ask him where he was all that time? Why should I? It's not a butler's duty to question his master's decisions. Instead, I must serve him to the best of my capabilities. Still a bit weird. And you must have been curious where he was, weren't you? What's your take on it? Where could he have been? As I said, it was none of my business. Mr. Arts might have looked like he was in his later years, but he was no idiot, mate. After all, he handled his finances just fine. What did the victim act like? Mask? You mean like metaphorical facade, or No, Justice. It was an actual mask. Mr. Arts wore a mask? Inside the mansion? Ah, alas. Never truly talked to my master face to face. Perhaps he was ashamed. After all, he did inform me about his past before employing me. Tell me about the mask. About this mask. How'd it look? What did it look like? It was always one of those creepy owl ones. It scared the heck out of me thinking about it at night. At least at first. Over time, though, we'd used to little things like that, you know? Everyone must adapt with time, without a doubt. I see. Well then, if I may continue. Why did he do that? Because I had the master key? Not quite what I meant. Why did he need you to unlock the door for him in the first place? After all, didn't he have his own key for the study? Why couldn't he unlock it himself? Oh, that. Simple enough, really. He actually lost his... Lost it? Interesting. That's pretty good timing. Would you mind adding that to your testimony? Alright. I'll do it. I'm sure you won't be forgetting about my... compensation. Right. Of course. Not paying. Don't worry. I'm not either. Guess we'll just send the bill to Kristoff or something then. Fair enough. When did that happen? It said it had occurred earlier in the day. I didn't ask for more. My intention was to go to a town the next day and have a new one made. I see. Wait. Why would you need to do that? Surely you would have come across it while cleaning or something. Assuming you are thorough enough. Well, you see. Right. Moving on. Fine, ignore my question. Hold on a second here. You say that Mr. Arts lost his own key to the study. So how was the door locked in the first place? By you? Why? There's no need. No need? Huh. You don't know? Allow me. Mr. Smith did not need to lock the door. In fact, nobody had to ever lock the door for it to be locked. You see, there is one last fact regarding this door that you should be aware of. Wait, another one? What kind of monstrous design is this? The door, you see, has an auto-lock system. Automatically locks when it's closed, right? That would be the definition of an auto-lock, yes. It'll be unlocked and open up from the inside of the room. Naturally. Okay. He's just so done with this shit. It's so big. For a time when doors used to be simple. Use a key to lock it or unlock it. Then you get to open and go through it. None of this chain lock, key, auto lock can't be unlocked without a key from inside business. Those were better days. So if the door was locked and the victim didn't have a key, he asked you to open it for him. Finally getting the picture, aren't you? And what happened next? You entered the room. As I was heading downstairs, I heard the gunshot. While Mr. Arts was entering the room, did you see anybody else in the room? Sadly, no. If I had, I would have probably used common sense and stopped all this from happening. In other words, at the time, you suspect that the defendant was already in the room. Indeed. It should be obvious how the defendant got into the room at this point, I hope. At least starting to look that way. Let's think logically, shall we? Victim got into the room. As Mr. Smith was heading downstairs, he heard a gunshot. In other words, the defendant needed to have been in the room at the time. Consider the fact that the door was locked when the butler came to unlock it. That the defendant did not have a key that could open it. You're left with one entry point for the defendant to have used. The key? Damn it. It's really as simple as it looks, I think. Let's think logically, shall we? Victim got into the room. Mr. Smith was heading downstairs, he heard a gunshot. In other words, the defendant needed to have been in the room at that time. Consider the fact that the door was locked when the butler came to unlock it. That the defendant did not have a key that could open it. Okay, this just loops until we get the right answer. Balcony. And there you have it. Your missing link. Was it everything you dreamed it would be? Don't worry, Justice. You're still free to cross-examine to your heart's content. After all, there's still bits of information the court should be aware of. Wait, are you really considering... Edgeworth, you're really going back to the balcony now? As in, the balcony is a viable means of getting in, or getting out? Or was that you just rubbing it in that that was be the only other means without stealing the key? Stealing the key is the way obvious outcome here. There is no possibility of there being another person in that room besides the defendant. What? What is this? There has to be a way someone was in that room aside from Mr. Marston. Let's see. Ruth answered how my client got in. Is seriously the balcony? This is actually the first time the victim's behavior before the murder has been mentioned. It's just to try and use it to your full advantage. Not really sure how. Since I have the feeling it'll be the only mention of the victim's behavior. Fine. Try focusing on the why and how of things. Who knows? Maybe you'll figure out how the culprit got into the room. And again, you don't even know how our client got in, so... maybe a bit of both. But the mask... he's always wore it? I mean, you've never actually seen his face when he was around you? Nope. That was part of our agreement. I'd like to think of that as a bonus. I mean, if I lived with a rich sack of crap, he lived 1,000 times better than me. And then I had to see his prettier face, too. It was a bonus, alright. The night of the murder was no different? I would have noticed if it was, now wouldn't I? Yes, but isn't there just a chance, then? That the person you saw wasn't actually the victim? Impossible. Mr. Arts had a very distinctive body type, one I've come to know quite well. One that couldn't have exactly been imitated by any of the other guests. And that cannot be denied, Justice. The only other two suspects here are females. Surely it would have been obvious if one of them had tried impersonating the victim. Well, unless our witness happens to be an idiot. Are you an idiot, Mr. Smith? No, sir, I am not. And there goes that theory out the window. Well, then if I may continue... I guess this is our point that we have to do something with. I'm not sure what. We'll do that next time.